We will miss you, Sterling, for so many reasons. As interpreter, as official, as friend. And while you surely deserve your retirement and hopefully travel adventures, I wish you'd stick around longer. You have been a mentor to so many officials and coaches, not to mention swimmers, and I didn't know you as an educator, and now I wonder who we will call to find out answers to questions. I've enjoyed state meets, early breakfast at numerous Canton establishments, laughter, wisdom, and an unflappable professionalism we won't see again. You are always calm in the storm, good-natured, and fun to be around. It has been a pleasure to know and work with you these many years, and I wish you and Sterling Godspeed. Happy birthday and happy retirement. With much affection, Katie Peter.
She's a neat lady.
What's Katie do?
Huh?
Peggy.
Peggy?
Peggy was an official.
Oh.
Her husband worked for White Castle. Was one of the first guys ever.
First,
He was first something or other.
with some higher up position. But then she too, she did summer age group, didn't she?
Oh yeah.
And one of the grandkids and one of her grandkids are like just a couple days apart in age.
So here's the one I got the biggest kick at around because it's just so ironic. And Josh is gonna help just a second. Just a second, honey. This is from Pam Cook.
Oh yeah.
12 to 15 years through Ohio high school swimming and diving tournament that she's known you. And this is titled Sterling, the New Age Geek.
She just she puts everything together.
Yeah.
So she's the computer guru. She runs
We met her.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
We met her.
Okay.
So this is why the irony, like
Yeah.
my job as part of the Ohio High School State Swimming and Diving Tournament is to integrate electronically the meet results at all levels of competition. When I first started talking to Sterling in geek language relative to the electronic integration, Sterling just looked at me as like I was a foreign alien who was speaking another language, which I was to him. Sterling at the time was not familiar with email and computerese that I just took for granted. We had many laughs over this. However, as time went by, I started getting emails from Sterling as we were communicating electronically, both remotely and in person. Sterling is now a savvy computer user,
Yeah.
and I consider him a new age computer geek. Just going to show that old dogs can learn new tricks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Sterling.
Yeah.
You got promoted.
She's a nice lady.
Oh.
What'd she look like?
She was in the office there, sitting behind
Blonde
the desk.
behind the desk. Okay.
Why is this wet over
She lives in Bay Village.
And she. Okay.
She does everything. Sets up the meet, runs the scoring.
here? Watch that.
So she was introduced to you through coaching or through officiating
Yeah.
to begin with?
Well, through state meet.
Oh, just through state week?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had her sitting up in the loge, so she was sitting up. The people that were in the council were down here, and she was up
Yeah.
a row,
Yeah.
Oh,
sitting there,
just doing.
overseeing everything.
Okay.
So this is from Hank Rubner.
Oh.
I've known Sterl Jr. for 60 years. My favorite remembrance is his being the bat boy for our company softball team.
Yeah.
I remember him lining up the bats each inning and being at the home plate to congratulate anyone who scored a run. Of course, there were many enjoyable times for Mary and me that we spent with the Apthorps. My sincere best wishes to him on his 75th birthday. All right.
We always tried to get out to Twinsburg and Solon, well, Solon and then Twinsburg to see them when we go to Cleveland.
This is from Dave Allen. Katie.
I'm a day older than he is.
Yep.
Okay, yep. Oh, we met him.
It says it here. Your dad was born the day before I was, so today's his birthday. So he is much older than I.
Yeah.
When I came to WRA as a senior, my dad was hired as a teacher, coach, dorm master there. Your dad was one of my first best friends, so I was frequently at your grandparents' home in Shaker Heights during the first semester. As we ended up dating 2 girls from Hathaway Brown's junior class, we also double dated often and became even closer. The girl I dated is now my wife of 54 years and lived only about 3 blocks from your dad's parents' home. So these visits were of great importance to my life. In the 1950s, federal law required the boys to enroll with the federal draft upon becoming 18. So your dad and I went to Shaker Heights en route to the federal draft board in Cleveland. Staying at your grandparents' house the preceding night, Wednesday, March 4th, 1954, to take the rapid transit train system about halfway between your house and Connie's, downtown to the Cleveland draft board the next AM. During the night, it snowed, not unlike the snows we've had here in the past 3 weeks. So he's referring to New Jersey.
Yeah.
So the 2 of us walked to catch the train through very deep snow. At one point, I stepped onto a hillock of snow and sank down almost hip deep until I stood on a hard surface. Upon investigation, we found that I was standing on a roof of a parked car.
Yeah. Yep.
Totally covered in
It
snow.
snowed, it really did snow.
We never reached the draft office. As I recall, the transit wasn't working, and I ended up registered weeks later at the Akron office, which turned out to be a real blessing because when it was time for me to be called for the draft, my Akron office was the highest volunteer draft office in the country, and I was never called up.
Wow.
Upon graduation, our plans divided, although we both ended up in New England, he at Dartmouth and I at Williams. And we saw each other often during college vacations. But thereafter, we seldom saw each other until our 50th WRA reunion.
What do you want, Josh?
I need the key.
We have this year seen each other and your mom more than any time since then. And I have yet to meet you, your husband and kids, which I have Dave out. So he's enjoying that.
Yes, and see, that weekend, Cleveland just got inundated with snow and Hudson had nothing.
Hudson had nothing.
So here, you guys
We
called
couldn't get back.
school, we can't get back, and of course, they weren't accepting that excuse at all.
Yeah.
And I imagine your mother had to get on the phone to
Yeah.
verify it.
She did.
So this is from Butch Creelman.
Oh, okay.
The date was May 1959, and Carol and Butch had moved into their new apartment, having been married a month before. Sterling was our first dinner guest,
That's right.
and he arrived with a single
Cincinnati.
rose. How thoughtful. We don't remember what we ate that night, but we won't ever forget the single rose. And then he put in another thought. Our 2 oldest, oops, sorry, I just fast forward a little too much here. Our 2 oldest kids, Britt and Amy, both attended Denison. Sterling and Beth owned a lovely antique-built farmhouse in Granville with a loft over the barn and garage. They made an offer we couldn't refuse when the loft was made available as a place to store their stuff over the summers. This was also a good excuse for some very nice visits from time to time. And this is from Butch, Stu,
Yep.
and Carol Creelman. And later correspondence that we had with each other too is that he's like, you must promise that your parents will be at this
Yeah,
reunion.
I will. We will.
Everybody's, yeah.
Well, and then, like Katie said, did you ask when you talked with Margaret, did you ask if Lori was going to this? I didn't
find
even think
out.
of it.
We'll have to get
We'll go back tomorrow or Monday and contact him and see.
This is from TK Seller.
Okay.
I've known Sterling for a number of years, although I wish I knew him better when I was a student at Worthington. I never had him as a teacher, and I wish I had swum for him. I got to know him when I coached swimming in the late 70s and 80s, and I remember many positive interactions with him. As the clinic coordinator for the State Swimming Coaches Association from 1982 to 1987, I had many positive interactions with Sterling and his willingness to present the rules interpretation session at the annual clinic. He was influential to me in that role, and he always explained the new roles very concretely and accurately, and he answered all questions fully and with certainty. I always directed later questions to him throughout the season, as I knew he would have definitive interpretation. It was a personal thrill and honor to get to work with Sterling when I was hired at Worthington in 1991. As a school counselor, my office interacted with him in numerous ways. He was always helpful, kind, and patient with me, and he gave me good advice as I transitioned into a new job in a new environment. I grew professionally because of his tutelage, and for that I'm deeply grateful to him as well. I consider myself very fortunate to know Sterling and to be able to call him a friend. TK Seller.
Well, what was TK doing when he was asking swimming questions? Who was he coaching?
Delaware, I think.
Oh, okay.
So he worked at Delaware. He worked at Whetstone, Delaware, and then he went to Worthington.
Okay.
So he was only at Worthington a very short time before I retired.
But not a swim
Nope. Well, all this is positive, but my favorite teacher, Mrs. Miner. I had 2nd and 5th grade. Was in love with my entire life. Actually named her son Mark Sterling Miner, not after me, which I was hoping she would, but after him. Because you gave her advice when she was teaching at Granville, and she greatly appreciated it.
That's pretty cool.
I remember seeing her years later. That was fun.
Oh,
That's cool.
Should have contacted her. I didn't even think about it until right now.
Well, that's very cool.
Because I thought I was cool and she would love me back. Yeah. Nope.
Yeah. So this is from Russell. And so, Russell.
Peace out, bro.
Yeah.
Russell responded. He considered this.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
something else.
Russell was one of my very first responders, actually, so
Yeah.
even more so.
Wow.
Here we go, put it in context. Katie, I'm having a hard time thinking of memories, except I remember being at y'all's
Yeah.
house when I was on vacation, but I don't remember doing a lot with your dad. But I do remember, what I do remember is his recliner and how he always is watching TV though. I remember the oval-shaped rug in the living room, haha. So that is what I remember. I remember learning about his love for popcorn by stealing his little popcorn bear figurine, ha ha ha.
That's upstairs.
Oh, yes. He
Your
tried.
mom,
Oh, he
your
tried.
mom and him scolded me on the way to the airport, but mostly just your mom. The best thing they did for me was not tell my dad. And that actually really made me feel much better about the situation, but I was very embarrassed about it to say the least, and learned a lot. Learned my lesson there.
Oh, I found it in his suitcase 2 different times. What do you mean he finally learned a lot?
Your dad was always pretty mellow when I was around and never said a whole lot. I guess that was for your mom to do. I remember thinking how weird this was based on my household experience being a little different, obviously, with my dad being the authoritarian. So I guess it made it out of there a little more, So I guess I made it out of there a little more lucky than some of his students from what I was told from his paddling them. LOL. So he went on to talk about some other personal stuff and general catch up, but he
Well, let us know about his personal stuff and general catch up.
he wishes you a very happy birthday. Let's see. So as far as music stuff is going, things are going really well. I'm really at a good point as I have been working with a few other producers who already were working with some of the top artists in the state. So that has been broadening my options and really starting to get my name out there. So at this point it's getting much better, and really, if anything is going to happen big, it's going to happen within the next year or two. Or not at all, probably, as this is the best position I've been in this far.
Good. Wow.
Getting my name out there more with some of these more successful artists will give me more leverage to getting to sell beats and whatnot as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
Good.
Then I have something to manage for the manager, like we have talked about before. but I'm not concerned with working with the artist now at this point, and most of the guys I'm sending the music to now anyways all have their own studio, and so I really have been just focusing on their music recently. So yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah, he kind of, when I saw him last, which I need to see him again, he's kind of set a deadline for himself, you know, like feeling like he's getting a little old at pursuing this and dedicating his time to it, so he said he was going to give himself another couple years, and that was going to be it.
For heaven's sake.
Because he does this all on the side of his full-time job.
Right. But if he enjoys it that much, you know, something could break. He could really break loose in 10 years, and it
Yeah.
could just go sky high.
Yeah. This next one's from Pat Stegman.
Okay.
My name is Pat Stegman, and I have been at Worthington Thomas High School for 25 years and have known your dad for all of those years. One of my memories of Sterling is the mail he would get. One of my jobs, especially over the summer since I'm a 12-month employee, was to sort the mail. Sterling's name was almost always screwed up somehow. But the best one was when someone addressed an envelope to Terlinga Apthorp, assistant principal, Worthington High School.
Yeah. U.S. Navy.
I'm sure the person didn't ask how to spell his name, nor did they hear him correctly when he told him who he was, so the envelope came addressed as above. It seemed from that day on, when we all wanted to laugh, we would call his phone and ask for Terlinga Sterling. Terlinga, sorry.
Terlinga. They
Sterling
probably yes.
always was a good-hearted about that.
Oh, we even joke about that as being the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also seem to remember a time when we used to have staff party at the Manicore in German Village, and I believe it was always Sterling that led the rest of us in a great rendition of the chicken dance. And Katie, your dad, was always one of those here that everyone could count on. He would come in at 5 a.m. to make sure the third shift custodians weren't just sleeping on the job, and to greet the first shift custodians. And he'd come in after he and your mom had been to something at the Palace or Ohio Theater to check in on the second shift custodians and make sure they didn't leave just a little early. Sterling, you were always one of my favorite people here at Worthington High School, and I always have considered you a great mentor and friend. Congratulations on reaching this milestone in your life, and I can only look to the future and say that I hope that I too can live as long. Pat.
Did you ever read your email to these people, to Dad, so he knows how you contacted them?
No. We
We'll
can get
do
to
it.
that later.
Yeah.
So this is from Molly and John Logan. Are you doing all right?
No, go ahead.
You want a pillow?
There aren't a lot more.
He's fine.
Just go ahead.
He's just relaxing.
This is from Happy Birthday Sterling with love from Molly and John. It's hard to imagine that Sterling is 75. How did that happen? It wasn't that long ago that we were all tobogganing down the hill behind the house on River Road.
Yeah.
But here we are, 40 plus years later, and we must face the reality that time has marched on. But what good memories we have. Most of our memories are when all 8 of us were together, your 2 and our 2, heading to Timbuk to make a day of finding and cutting down the perfect Christmas tree, then back to River Road for dinner and finishing up with red velvet cake at the Evergreen restaurant. It was delicious, but not as yummy as the Huffy cake, which Sterling ruined by spreading milk all over the cake part and then eating the soupy mess with a spoon.
Oh.
Disgusting to the rest of us, but he was a happy man.
Remember that.
And all the delicious Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners we shared throughout our Columbus years. Of course, your Super Bowl party was much fun. We were annually impressed with Sterling's knowledge of all sports statistics, from birthdays to birthmarks. Do you remember when we moved to Hudson and a day or 2 later, you and Beth arrived to help us unpack boxes? We will always remember that kindness and the joy we had in sharing your family's Christmas dinner just a year ago. Now we look forward to your annual Christmas letter, the best one we received. the halfway lunches in Worcester, as well as ongoing trips to Newark and yours to Hudson.
Oh, he wants to do that again too.
Yeah.
Worcester.
Hopefully we can get our 4th of July letter written or whatever
Yeah.
it's going to be.
Well, I do have to say, a few people did express some, bluntness, if you will, about,
Yeah, I know.
we haven't received a card this year,
I know.
especially Sandy Pinnick's.
Or was that one from Roger?
Oh, wait till she.
So I softened the blow on quite a bit, and I did say, what's been ailing your typing. So
Oh, okay.
some people are in the know, and including the Logans, because they mentioned it as well, just saying, we didn't hear from them this year. So
Well, and when I called some people, it was almost like they were holding their breath until I got enough into the conversation to find out that you were alive and well.
I have no
Phone call
I appreciate it.
frightened them in the beginning.
Okay, this is from Ken Geip.
Okay.
I have known Sterling. He is the only Sterling I know for over 40 years. I think he has known me for about 30.
Probably.
That's good.
Probably right.
He was a big deal in Ohio swimming when I first became a coach in 1970, and he spoke at the first OHSSCA clinic I attended at the old OSU building, where we had a half-day clinic, donuts for breakfast, and KFC for lunch every year. I remember when I first started becoming involved in the Coaches Association that I always thought I would like to have people think of me like they did about Sterling. The respect he commands and the knowledge he passes on have always impressed me, as well as every other coach and official I've come in contact with. And I will never forget that in about 1978, I went to my first executive council meeting of the Coaches Association, and I introduced myself to him, and he said, "I know who you are."
Oh, jeez.
I was also impressed with
It
myself.
probably was a little lighter.
I
know
could
who
hardly
you are.
speak.
What was that? They couldn't speak.
I was so impressed with myself I could hardly speak. I thought if he knew who I was, that I was on my way to actually making something of myself in the sport. Over the years, we have become better acquainted and spoken many times about our common philosophies on rules, kids, coaches, officials, and swimming in general. And I'd always had this secret hope that I could get on the NFHS rules committee, like he had been, and have a position of responsibility at the state meet like he had had. I can't believe that both of those things have come true, although I will miss him terribly. Over the past several years, I have gotten more and more responsibility with OHSAA, and do you guys refer to it like that, or do you say OSHA, or what do you
Well, it
say?
was
Ohio High School Swimming.
Okay.
the Athletic Association.
Yeah.
Okay. I spent more time with Sterling. It has only solidified my opinion that he is Ohio swimming, and all is good about it. I consider him my mentor, confidant, and most of all, my friend. We have very similar philosophies about the sport and the people we deal with in that sport. Outside of the sport, he is one of the proudest dads, grandfathers, and husbands I know. I've come to feel like I know his family quite well, even though my actual meetings have been very limited. He is so proud of you all. The grandkids have been the source of great joy for him, and I hope that when I talk about my 4 grandchildren, I express it with the love that he obviously feels for them, and his involvement in their lives is so important. He would give up just about anything for them. I have even gotten to know some of his favorite things while we traveled together this last fall. He required stops at Coon's Candy on the way to Findlay, and the stop at the ice cream store in Zanesville for cashews are particularly well remembered and will be required stops for me in the future, as I promise to bring refills to him. Sterling, you have touched the lives of so many people because of your involvement in swimming, and the philosophy you have embodied and promoted will serve us all well for the many years to come. And I'm proud to succeed you, but you will never be far removed from the sport because I have you on speed dial. It won't let you get away. We all miss you, but you have earned the break, and I know you will enjoy it. Coons candy to be delivered at our April 5th meeting. You may make a special order by email if you desire.
Yeah, we're gonna meet on the 5th of April.
Yeah, you know now.
The Athletic Association.
It's from Jeff McKenna. I will say he spent a lot of time interacting, just really searching, and I kind of think that embodies Jeff a lot, searching for memories in general, whether it's his mother or whatever, but, kind of came up what he came up with, and he's still looking. But he said, one memory I'd like to share about your dad is that I believe he told me that Dartmouth and his fraternity were the inspiration for Animal House.
No, AD.
What's that?
AD was the
Alpha Delta?
Alpha Delta Phi.
He
It's
told,
the Animal House.
okay. He told me a funny story one time about how they would roll empty beer kegs across the lawn Sunday morning after a party.
Yeah, that's true.
Since they were next door to the church, it made for interesting comments with the churchgoers coming in for service.
We were across the street, but we borrowed kegs from the Theta Delta house. I had to get them over to across the street.
So they
We're rolling
turn
across.
So
the
you're on this
Episcopal
noise
churches.
rolling across the street?
Oh, just rolling the
Just roll the
kegs.
keg.
It's not-
I thought it was across the yard.
Well, we went across the yard of the Episcopal church because we were diagonally.
Oh.
So we had to go across the in order to get.
So meantime, there's this big
Everybody-
rumble of this keg rolling
Yeah.
across the street too.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
priest
everybody's
wasn't
going to church. Hey,
he
everybody.
wasn't too excited. Well, yeah, he was really excited, but the wrong way.
Alright, so this is from John.
Okay.
John's on a rewrite as we speak, but the rewrite has not come in.
Okay.
And so the intention is that he's not trying to be an ass when he wrote this. So I
Okay.
will read this to the best of my ability. But he did write afterwards, really expressing he's not trying to be an ass. So I've known Sterling Apthorp personally since I was old enough to generate memories, as he is my uncle on my mother's side. Please don't ask me to divulge exactly how many years that represents. Let's just say more than 4 decades and leave it at that. Okay, none of these bear enough detail to be classified as stories, more like anecdotes, but here it goes. So, to me, one of my Uncle Sterling's most endearing traits is his willingness to dog the hometown sports heroes. Thus, the very popular Browns quarterback is an overpaid coddled bum.
That's right.
The Ohio State coach is a wife-beating alcoholic.
Which one was that?
I don't know.
It's anecdotal.
Probably-
yes.
Probably Cooper. Okay.
Cooper. Yeah, Cooper.
Yes. I remember being convinced that one day I get a phone call in the middle of the night telling me my aunt and uncle had died in a house fire which started in the basement where Sterling kept his 8-foot-high stack of newspaper archives.
Yep.
Right? What do they call that? Combustion? Oh dear.
Number 3. Like, this is
3 of what?
This was the quote on the thing. It's at Katie's wedding reception when the male relatives realized we would be expected to hoist Sterling in the chair during
Yeah.
the hora. We all looked at one another and groaned, "Oh Christ!"
Yeah. I remember that.
Oh, yes.
At a Jewish wedding, oh Christ.
Yes.
That was from last night. That was beautiful.
Oh yes.
Yes. Yes. So last and not least, I have a few other different media here. But this first one, we're winding down here. But first one is from your cousin Tom.
Okay.
And
Smart one?
yes.
I like him.
What?
I like him.
Basil.
So I don't think I can get Josh, can I don't think I can get this up on this computer, can I? This presentation, if you will. I'll just
Is
do
it
it
in
right.
an email?
Chinese?
No, it's attachment. I didn't.
In
Oh,
an
do
email?
it.
That's
Just do it
alright.
to Dad.
Okay.
I can do it off of your computer.
Well, let me see here, and I'll. No, you don't need to move.
We can put it on this computer. You can present off that.
Okay, so he
All the
put
kids
together this presentation, and it's a lot of
Okay.
reference to you, what he means to you.
Okay.
So you can all kind of sit here. So the headline, and
Hey.
he talked about in China, you gotta go big or go home. So
Yeah.
this is what he did. He created a presentation.
Okay.
Headline. This is called The Real Dirt, by the way.
Yeah.
Sterling Apthorp Jr. retires at an age. Spring 2011. At events like these, you might be concerned that your friends and loved ones would be trying to reveal the real you. Get down to the nitty-gritty and dig up all the dirt you have hidden from everyone your whole life.